Welcome back to Red and Blue. I'm Caitlin Huey-Burns. Former President Donald Trump is the only official candidate for the 2024 presidential cycle, but we can already take hints of who might run based on where they're going and who they're talking about. That includes former Vice President Mike Pence, who finds himself in New Hampshire tonight. Amid all the speculation, Pence has visited several important early primary states in recent weeks on his book tour. Since the book came out last month, he's already been to Nevada and South Carolina, along with a stop at the Reagan Library in California. CBS News chief election and campaign correspondent Robert Costa joins me now with more. Bob, good to see you. So nobody goes to New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina entirely by accident. Pence is on a book tour, but does it look kind of like the beginnings of a presidential campaign, or is he kind of using this to test the waters a little bit and see what kind of reception he's getting?
Caitlin, actions tell the story in politics. When you look at the menu of the map of Pence's book tour, you don't see Idaho, you don't see Kansas. Where's South Dakota? But Nevada, Iowa, New Hampshire now tonight, they're all getting visits from the former vice president. He is moving toward a possible run for the Republican nomination. But Pence, like so many right now in the GOP field, they're taking their time. They're going to talk to their families, talk to their friends, talk to their donors, and they're waiting to see what happens with former President Trump, legally and politically.
Yeah, a lot of conversations happening over holiday dinners in the coming weeks. I'm also curious about Ron DeSantis, because he's someone that comes up over and over again. He's calling a new special session in the legislature today. And also, you know, his legislature is likely to address at some point next year whether or not they can reverse a law to let him run for president at the same time. A current law says you have to resign to be able to run. What are you hearing about kind of what he's doing? Is he kind of head down in his work, having just been reelected as governor? He seems to be someone that people are talking about, or at least wanting to be interested in.
He won by 19 points in his re-election race, and so some of his allies tell CBS News behind the scenes that he's going to get through the spring, have his legislative session, and then make a decision. And he's going to see if some of the biggest donors in the party, some of the key stakeholders in Congress, whether they come to him, come visit him in Tallahassee, ask him to run. See if there's a groundswell for a DeSantis campaign. There's already a super PAC called Ready for Ron, being run by Ed Rollins, the former Reagan advisor, sometimes ran a Trump super PAC. So you have a lot of dynamics out there where they're not only waiting to see what Trump does and how his campaign goes, but what does DeSantis do. But those who are lower tier are not going to wait for DeSantis to make a final decision. Lower tier in terms of polling and public recognition of their political ambition. They're likely to get in the coming few months, test the waters, knowing that, of course, DeSantis could try to get in May or June or July. But a lot of people are going to perhaps get in because they're wondering, does DeSantis want to truly get in this race, knowing that if he runs against Trump, he has to have all of the consequence of that run. It's not just running for president, you're running against Trump, and that means it's likely to be a rough race. Yeah,
that's a whole other dynamic, and it'll be interesting to see where donors go over the next couple of months. That might give us an indication of kind of who they're getting behind. I want to talk to you a little bit about politics here in Washington and Republicans. We had Marjorie Taylor Greene saying some controversial statements at a Young Republicans dinner, essentially, you know, talking about ways in which Democrats have said that she's responsible for the January 6th insurrection. She said that she was being sarcastic when she said that if it were up to Steve Bannon and her, that they would have gotten the job done and they would have been armed. Take that for face value. But this also, to me, kind of indicates that this is something that Kevin McCarthy is going to have to continue to grapple with a slim majority, with her kind of having an outsized influence. How are Republicans taking those statements that she made?
Well, it's not just the statements that are going to hover over the new Republican majority. In just a few weeks, the House Select Committee investigating January 6 will release its report. They have investigated at times and talked about the conducts of certain members of Congress who are Republicans. Steve Bannon, who Congresswoman Taylor Greene referenced in her statement, he's a major part of the January 6th story at the Willard Hotel with Rudy Giuliani on January 5th, 2021, stoking talk of overturning the election on his podcast and television and radio program in the weeks before January 6th. And they still have a place inside of this Republican Party. You see people like Carrie Lake. Who was she turning to in the final weeks of her campaign as a strategist? Steve Bannon. And so Bannon is a presence in the GOP, even if some don't want him to be.
Yeah, and that January 6th report coming imminently. We'll see what else comes out of that. Bob Costa, thank you for your time, as always. And